your attorney, Phil Wiles, for his continued work with us over the years on some of the unique aspects of fiscal issues with the federal government and the military and what bills we can and can't pay. Right. And he's come up with a footnote recognizing that in this latest regulation, and we're very appreciative on behalf of all the military installations in the state, and we look forward to continuing to work past these fee issues and actually do more work with you on improving water quality. So thank you, and thank you, Phil.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the thank you. Danny Merkley, California Farm Bureau Federation.
Thank you, Chair Marcus, members. Danny Merkley, California Farm Bureau. First, I'd like to start out by complimenting staff on how open they've been, how transparent the process has been with them, even Darren a little bit. But as you know, and as we talked about, the process that they've been required to work within has been flawed. So we look forward to actively engaging in a more robust stakeholder process if that moves forward. Sounds like it will. We still have some concerns about how that might actually play out, given some of the constraints that you have. We believe there's public benefit in these programs, and we'd like to see the board maybe advocate a little bit more on behalf of getting general fund dollars infused there. And if we can work with you on that with the constraints of the BCP process, we'd like to do that. This year, working with, and over the last year and a half or so, working with staff and water rights, we were able to sponsor legislation to help fix some flaws in there, make things easier and a little bit better for our members, but then also help the water rights staff do some things that they were not able to do before. So that's a good example where when and if we can work together, we can help out across the street. We recognize a lot of this really is in the budget process across the street, and we're actively engaged there as well, and look forward to being able to do more of that here. So thanks.
Thank you. Gail Delahunt, Western Growers.
Hi, I'm Gail Delahunt with Western Growers. We're the fresh guys. We don't have any cows. However, I do drink milk.
You have to keep your distance from cows.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right, I do. I don't know. Anyway, to make my speech here a little bit short is I agree with all the other ag folks that came up here today on the fees. I come up every year on the fees and the cumulative effect of all the fees. It just seems like they keep going up and up and up, and there definitely is a public benefit, and I get very frustrated that the general fund is keeps being cut out and out and out of these programs, and they need to be put back in now that the budget is more solvent. So you can help with that as we go across the street. Felicia, it'd be wonderful to have your support as we talk with them about getting more general fund money for these programs.
I couldn't tell you what I did. Or
So anyway, that's my ask for today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Heard. Thanks. Chris Howard, on behalf of dairy farmers. Eco Dairy Farms.
Eco Dairy Farms, that's right. And Reservation Ranch, Weatherall Family Dairy, Ferguson Family Dairy, Borges Family Dairy, and Palmer Westbrook Family Dairy, all in Delaware County. All a very beautiful place in the world. Welcome you up there to see what fabulous water quality we do have, because it's recognized as #1 in the United States. And we love to take care of our water because it's what attracts people to our area. But at the same time, regulation upon regulation and fees have really compromised the health of our community. As you might know, we are at the bottom of the 58 counties in the state of California. And we're really trying to hang on to what we have left. As you may know from the past, if you looked at Delaware County or anything on the North Coast, timber was a vital part of our community. We once had 52 mills. We now have none. We once had a lot of lily producers. We're now down to 4. We once had a lot of dairymen. We're we're now down to what I just read off to you on this list. We need all the help we could get for you guys to recognize where we've been and where we need to go to stay in business, not just for our future as businessmen, but for our future of our children that are going to grow up and take our place on the farm. And if you could recognize those facts and see it in your hearts to find a way to make these fees that could potentially come today go away under the waiver that which we all currently operate under, we'd really appreciate it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Blake Alexander, also at the same email, Eco Dairy Farm is the email. So.
Yes, Blake Alexander with Alexander Family Eco Dairy Farms. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for skipping lunch. Thank you to the audience for hanging in there. I'm a fourth generation farmer in both Humboldt and Del Norte counties. I grew up in Ferndale. We now live in Crescent City, so we drove a little less than 400 miles to be here today. I'm tired, I'm confused, and again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I saw the slideshow there earlier in the one spreadsheet up there, and it said stakeholders, and after staring at it for 10 minutes, I thought, wow, maybe that's me. I really don't know. And I don't know what you think I am. But I am here to tell you I'm not an ATM machine. And I don't appreciate a fundraising project coming out of Sacramento my direction. And let me explain that. I'm sorry if that offends you, but I need to explain that because we've worked diligently and very hard and very honestly and openly and transparently to where we now refer to ourselves as a translucent company, a translucent dairy farm where everybody's welcome to see everything. And we've been located up there. I'm fourth generation. I've got fifth generation, 4 kids in college, 1 in high school, and they're starting to come home, and the first 3 have committed to coming home to the family farm, and we're really, really proud of that. And we've worked with a lot of environmental situations and endangered species recovery programs, and we've gotten a lot of accolades from Washington, D.C. on all kinds of really cool work, and we're very proud of that. I guess what I'm offended by is the relationship that we've developed with the North Coast Regional Board. 4 years ago, they asked for help, and so we volunteered all 4 of our dairies first, immediately, for the voluntary assessment program where they brought up EPA folks and of course, state folks and water quality folks. And it was a great process. We went through the first round of inspections. A year and a half later, we went through it again, and we helped them develop the rules. We used to have a permit that would cost us money every year. I think we were the only dairy in the region that did for a long time. And we worked, to develop the waiver program, and we hoped that we would qualify. I guess I should say we milk cows on 4 locations in both counties, about 4,000 mature cows. Your proposed plan this morning or today affects us even at the 50% rate at about $9,000 to $10,000. It adds up more because we have multiple locations. So what we worked on with Regional Board was, the waiver program with the idea that there was no fee. And that doesn't mean that there was no cost, because there's a lot of cost. It's a lot of hidden cost and a huge effort. And so now I'm told last month that, boom, the fees are coming our way. And so you're proposing a reduced rate, which is nice. The $9,000 I mentioned is at the 50% rate. And going from where we were last year to 9 is crazy. I don't know how you do that math. It doesn't make sense, and I don't believe it should be justified in any way, shape, or form. And I just frankly think it's a step too far, too fast in the wrong direction, and it's not at all what we have been expecting. It's not what we've basically agreed to, and I have been, since that experience working with the Regional Water Quality Board, a huge fan of regional water quality, and have tried to help in any way I could in explaining to other farmers and other dairymen and lily bulb growers that, you all put your neck on the line when you give us a waiver or a permit or something, and that relationship, that understanding. And we take that very serious, and we have tried to honor that relationship. And again, the fees are coming a little backhanded from my point of view, and I'm just here to weigh in, and I don't appreciate that. But thank you very much for your time and your consideration, and I hope that this works out.
All right. Thank you very much. Curtis Holgerson Dairy. All right. Melissa Lima, Western United Dairyman.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. I'm getting a little hungry myself, so I'll be brief and piggyback on the comments of my colleague Paul, of Michael, and of Blake. I work specifically with 123 dairy producers in the North Coast region and 35 producers in the San Francisco Bay region. Over the last 4 years, I've been specifically involved with the North Coast process as they've developed a waiver and a GWDR program. 3 dairies qualified for a general waste discharge requirement, 120 qualified for a waiver. This effort has fostered a very positive partnership, as you heard from Blake, between regulators and dairy producers that is unheard of in probably the state of California, and I would say the nation. I'd like to thank board members Dodek and Diadamo for their proposal today. I think that really speaks to a good collaborative effort going forward to determine an appropriate fee schedule for dairy producers on the North Coast, considering the work they've done. And just to mention a little bit of that work, they have gone to over 8 hours. Each and every one of them has gone to over 8 hours of CDQAP educational workshops. They have established in each district groundwater and surface water testing associations. They have volunteered for inspections. Almost every dairy has been inspected to this point in the 2-year duration of the program. They have been on time and complete with all their paperwork. In the 2-year duration of the program, currently I think 1 notice of violation has been put forth out of 123 dairies. I think that's very impressive. They're comfortable calling Sherry at the Water Board directly when questions arise. They've worked with NRCS, RCDs, and their trade associations to improve BMPs on their dairies, and they've done all of this in good faith because they believe that the environment they're protecting is a part of them. Most of them have been farming this land for several generations. So again, we support a very robust stakeholder process going forward. We look forward to working with you to develop an appropriate fee schedule if that point comes. And we thank you so much again for your time and consideration today.
Right. Thank you. Joe or John Mendoza?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and Board. I want to thank the 2 board members that kind of stole my thunder a little bit. You answered some of the concerns that I have, so I don't want to be repetitive. And I don't want to minimize what the quality assurance program has done, because it's been a win-win for you people and us, obviously. However, even before that, the Sonoma Marin Water Quality Committee was developed. And we have worked with the RCDs trying to get grants they broke us up into watersheds and whatnot to get funding for some water quality projects. We also have self-policed ourselves. We've been very proactive. We hire an individual who goes around and takes water quality samples on the water, the main areas, that Tamales Bay, the water, for an example, out on the point on Drake's Bay where I'm from, and around the Santa Rosa area. We've been very proactive, and when we find problems, we get on them, and we go and we let the dairyman know that there's an issue and we got to work on it. And we have very few violations. It's really improved the water quality. The staff up there knows it. The Fish and Game knows it. And they're very appreciative of the work we've done, because it's made they've had to send less people out policing because we're policing ourselves. So now we've done all these things, and plus a high percentage of dairymen pass the quality assurance thing, and now they're going to put a fee on us, and we've been so proactive, we just don't think that's fair or appreciative. And thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say. Bye.
Thank you very much. for
By the way,
joining us.
I'm third generation dairyman. I'm working like hell to make sure there's a fourth.
Great. That's the conclusion of our speaker cards. I see Secretary Ross. Did you want to say anything on the, what? You're preserving? It's always nice to see you. Just want to acknowledge you were here. All right. Discussion. I know there's a proposal that has been made and will be made. I do want to say one thing, which is that I am hoping that by the next time we can come at this in a different place. There are obviously some structural challenges to the fact that we are entirely fee-based. There's also, we do need to have a greater understanding of what the differences are between our programs and others. I can imagine easily actually how water dairies, considering the issues, is a bigger deal for water than it is for having worked on both, but that disparity is kind of big. So I think there's a lot that we need to learn. This is one of our largest focused areas from an environmental and public health protection standpoint, and I think we are only where we are today because of the great collaboration, both voluntarily within the industry. I'm talking about the confined animal feeding issue in particular this morning, and the quality assurance of partnership and partnerships like it. And those are the kinds of collaborative actions that I obviously really believe in, having talked about it before and having been present at the birth of the quality assurance partnership. But we do need to figure out what we can do to explain what we do better. And so I really appreciate the thought that my colleagues have put into this. And I do want us to be able to explain better how it is that our fees do end up being so much higher. Obviously, the solution that you've mentioned but has gone on unnoticed is that you have cut costs in order to try and make this work with the transfer of, for example, Gamma over. You've cut it nearly in half, and it's a program that whose importance is hard to, you couldn't overestimate the value of that. So it just puts us in a really challenging situation. So I'm hoping, presuming that the proposal moves forward as suggested, that that we really can make substantial progress in how we articulate what we're doing, and also in the relationships we have with the regulated entities in agriculture who, I will say without picking favorites, can be the most interesting people to work with in the world. So it should not be altogether unpleasant for staff and for those of us who will engage in it. So I really want to see a big change in that by next year. Are there any questions or other comments on behalf of my colleagues?
Well, I'd like to thank all of the commenters, especially those that brought some cost of compliance data forward. It kind of gives staff a good sense of the relative cost of fees versus cost of compliance. I think it was the Curti Made Dairy brought some specific information that was interesting, because it showed that the fees where they're at now are about a third of the compliance costs, and so that, that's where fees are starting to kind of get up in that area, a similar order of magnitude, and I think we should be looking at that. I think the board members recognize that the efficiencies that Mr. Rogers of the Tulare Basin brought forward in terms of our staff efforts, and how there's less staff effort in terms of protecting water quality associated with partnerships and collaborations that are made possible by the quality assurance program. And so, moving forward, if I wasn't clear before, I'm very supportive of what my fellow board members have proposed, but recognizing, as many of the commenters on this extensive board item today, I'll note, many commenters have said, let's manage our expectations as far as what you can expect from this type of stakeholder effort. we have constraints to work within, but I completely agree with the idea that we use that information then communicate back. If there's enough of a groundswell of support to talk to the administration about issues of general funds and all that, yes, it's outside of our work, our purview here, but we can help with the conversation on that. I see no harm in that. But we have to make our staff efforts fiscally sound. And I respect the comparison, as Chair Marcus says, with the other agencies. We can kind of drill down into what that really means as far as water oversight versus air oversight versus toxics. We're not talking about apples and apples there. But I think we've shown, since I've been on the board a couple of years, our genuine interest in transparency in our operations. Karen Turgovich, our deputy executive director and chief deputy director, is not here today. She's kind of our point person. It's staff to look at performance metrics, to look at cost of compliance, to look at our efficiencies as staff, and that issue was brought up a lot during these hours of testimony. We welcome that transparency. But we have to be real about, how much a process will yield as far as, greater efficiencies, and recognize that places like the North Coast and the San Francisco Bay, where I was the board member that was part of that dairy waiver versus WDR program, which I thought was a great success. I'm very proud of being a part of that pilot effort in the San Francisco Bay region. In the end, we have to balance the books, and there is staff effort involved in managing a waiver program, and so we have to deal with reality too. So I'm supporting transparency. I'm supporting staff efforts in that arena within the constraints of our available resources to do so, and recognizing that we have to manage expectations on how far we can get with that effort.
Since I've already said my piece earlier today, I'll just thank everyone for coming, especially all those who drove all the way here to provide us with their thoughts and to bring to us your perspective of, actually working to implement the programs out there on the ground and the things that you do to ensure good stewardship of our water and of your land, our land. I want to thank staff for, I know how hard you've worked on this very complicated issue and the work that you will continue to do as we look towards next year and improving the stakeholder process and improving the transparency in our communication processes. With that, I will move for adoption of this item with option 1A for the confined animal facilities fee schedule. Also with the direction to staff to bring an item back to the board no later than the first December board meeting with a proposal for this going forward with the stakeholder process on discussing next year's fee schedule, but also specifically with a proposal for some kind of a case study pilot project that is focused on confined animal facilities, the programs there, and working with the Dairy Quality Assurance Program on better understanding the value, the benefit, the partnerships, and also the cost of compliance associated with activities that the dairies are engaged in. And I would say definitely engage, I would make that part of the motion, to engage the stakeholder in developing this proposal to come back before the board.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Madam Chair, if I can, just to be clear about what exactly is on the table, and we did have one other change I need to read to you if I can.
Okay.
So I understand the motion, and if I may, in terms of the actual language for the regulations. The first is just a typo on footnote 11. Currently reads, dischargers shall pay an annual active post-discharge fee, and we should strike the prefix post. It's really an annual active discharge fee.
Okay.
And then the other changes are all just to make the regulations consistent with option 1A. And so to do that, I'll do the maybe the most difficult one last. The paragraph C1 of section 2200, we had proposed to insert the $2,500 cap in the text of section C1, and so option 1A, to make that happen, we would just not include that insertion, and so that section would remain unchanged from the current regulation.
Right.
In section 2200.7, we had proposed a new subdivision B, and that was to impose the same fees for dairies operating under a waiver as for those operating under waste discharge requirements. And so consistent with option 1A, we would not adopt that new subdivision B.
Right.
And then the last change is to the table. I'm moving backwards now to the table in subdivision C of section 2200. The numbers that were in the version that was distributed to the public, those reflect the 20% increase. All of those numbers under the entire table would be changed. We did put out in the staff report how they would change for mature dairy cattle. We didn't spell them out for all of the other categories, but they would all go up by a commensurate amount, so that rather than showing a 20% increase, they would show a 33% increase. If you would like, I'd be happy to read those numbers, but I think it's okay if we just get direction from the board to increase them by 33%, with the understanding that that's actually on top of the change from the 9.5% gamma surcharge to a 9.5% gamma redirect. So I don't want people to be confused by the math.
Right, because the surcharge goes away.
The surcharge goes away. It's already built into what we had noticed.
Right.
But when people do the math, they may see it's not exactly 20% or 33%. It's actually, the proposal had been 20% on top of the, including the redirect. And now what the board's going to be considering is a 33% increase on top of the last year's fee plus the redirect. Those are the only changes that would be necessary for the board's motion.
Thank you, Mr. Wiles. I'm in agreement with that, so again, so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries. Thank you all for your time, and thank you for the time you will spend in the months ahead as well. And thank you very much for joining us today. We're now going to take a half-hour break, and then we will be back promptly at 3:15. Proceed with the agenda.